Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chloe. I just wanted to have a little chit chat with you guys today. So go grab yourself a nice cup of tea or a nice glass of warm milk and let's get ready for our topic of the day. So today I wanted to talk about intermittent fasting because I just got off of a call with one of my clients that I am helping coach to get her period back. And it wasn't too far into our first session when she told me that she's been doing intermittent fasting for the past couple years because she heard that it will increase her longevity and it will help with her digestive system and with her insulin levels and like a myriad of things. So she said that she's been practicing intermittent fasting, and there's a lot that I want to say on this topic, and I think that it is really important that we spend some time to discuss this because like a lot of things with eating disorders, everything that we sort of hear in the general, I should say, like blogosphere and interweb and news articles and all of that, health articles, health podcasts, everything that we sort of hear, we have to really make sure that it is right for us, because going through an energy deficit, going through anorexia, or going through amenorrhea, going through overtraining, like this puts us at a different place than most of the world. And so a lot of the information that we see online is not going to be beneficial for those who are suffering with an energy deficit. And one of those things is going to be intermittent fasting. So that's why we're going to talk about this today. So let's just get to the basics here. Amenorrhea, what is some of the main causes of someone losing their menstrual cycle? Well, that's going to be something that we talk about a lot on this channel, which is underfueling and or overtraining. This is going to create an energy deficit in the body, which signals to the body to downregulate, to slow down, and to start conserving energy. So it's pretty much this like energy saving mode that the body goes into. So when you are in this state of famine, the body does not see it as being a smart thing to have a child. And so it will downregulate your hormones and decrease the estrogen in your body so that you aren't creating, or you aren't ovulating, I should say, therefore you're not menstruating. Having a baby also requires a lot of energy via growing the baby, breastfeeding the baby, taking care of the baby. So the body really wants to make sure that it's safe. To get your body out of amenorrhea, what needs to happen is your body needs to feel safe and it needs to know that it is out of this land of famine and it has finally reached this land of abundance, right? So you have to eat lots and stop moving. And that's pretty much the two sort of rules for amenorrhea recovery. Quite simple, but really hard in practice. When your body is in this state of energy deficit, your cortisol levels are really high and your estrogen levels are super low, hence why there is a lack of menstruation happening. So let's correlate amenorrhea with intermittent fasting right now. So a quick rundown of intermittent fasting if you don't know what it is. Intermittent fasting is pretty much a window of time that you choose to eat and not eat. So it's usually like a 16 to 8 window. So you have 16 hours of fasting throughout your day and then 8 hours of time that you can eat. Now there's lots of benefits that are touted online like aging, memory, longevity, digestive health, weight loss. Like there's so much, which is why a lot of people end up sort of jumping on this intermittent fasting bandwagon. But again, we have to realize that we're in a special situation here because we have amenorrhea or we're in an energy debt, and so the information that's just put out there on the interweb may not be beneficial to us. So with intermittent fasting, like I said, you're choosing this window of time, so pretty much you are not eating for a portion of your day. So is this advantageous for getting your period back? Can you be intermittent fasting and healing from amenorrhea? Well, I personally don't think you can. Now, I am not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian. I am telling you from what I've studied, from my experience, and from all the many, many, many articles I have read on amenorrhea and the many people that I've talked to who have dealt with amenorrhea and who have healed. So let's think about this here. Intermittent fasting, you wake up in the morning and you're not eating breakfast until about maybe 2 o'clock, let's say. So in the morning, your cortisol levels are super high. That's what gets you up in the morning. You have a spike of cortisol, you wake up, you get out of bed, and you get moving. Now, cortisol is the last thing that we want when we are dealing with amenorrhea. We usually have high levels of cortisol in the body from not eating enough and from overtraining. So we need to be doing everything we can in amenorrhea to be reducing the amount of cortisol in our body. So let's go back to the morning time. You wake up, you get out of bed, and you don't eat until 2 o'clock. Now what this does is this keeps your cortisol levels super high. Because when you wake up in the morning and you go in the kitchen and you have, say, toast and eggs, your cortisol levels are buffered. So the cortisol will start to go down when you eat in the morning, which is exactly what we want for amenorrhea recovery. We don't want to be starting our day with high cortisol. Now, also, when we are not eating for this, couple hours after we wake up, our body thinks it's what? Back in that land of famine, which is again the opposite of what you want for amenorrhea. So you don't eat for a couple of hours, and despite the fact of, let's say, you ate the same amount of food. Say you're eating 2,500 calories. Okay. Now say all you did was push those 2,500 calories till after 2 o'clock. So 2 to 8 o'clock in the afternoon, you're eating 2,500 calories. That is not the same as eating 2,500 calories throughout the day in regards to amenorrhea recovery. Because to get your period back in amenorrhea recovery, you need to be eating consistently, and you need to be telling your body every single minute you can that you are safe. And if you do not eat in the morning, despite the fact that you know that you are going to break your fast and eat at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, your body doesn't know that. All it knows is like, oh, no food, no food. Okay, we shouldn't have a baby. We should downregulate our sex hormones. There's not enough energy to reproduce here. This is the opposite of what we want in amenorrhea recovery. We want to be keeping our body fueled all day, every day. That's what it's going to take to get your period back. So, not eating in the mornings going to be putting your body in that stress state and telling it like, hey, food's not around. We shouldn't be having a period right now. So another thing that I wanted to discuss today is the fact that a lot of these intermittent fasting studies are done on men, and men are different than women hormonally. And so while men may have a lot of these benefits of weight loss and better energy, improved athletic performance, we don't really see that in women. In fact, many articles that I found online explicitly say that many women will undergo hormonal imbalances when they try intermittent fasting.
I just want to take a moment to read this snapshot from an article I found. It says caloric restriction, for example, is a stressor that is processed in the brain and can modify the release of sex hormones through what is called the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, otherwise known as the HPG axis. Reproduction and fertility are regulated via hormone of the HPG axis. With regards to intermittent fasting, it could be possible that individuals who aren't getting enough caloric intake to support the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis could experience irregular menses, Dr. Rich said. Simplified, this means that if a woman does not have enough nutritional or metabolic energy to support carrying a pregnancy, the body will signal the brain to shut off the reproductive cycle. For this reason, women who are trying to become pregnant may be wary of fasting for longer than 24 hours at a time or meaningfully restricting their caloric intake through fasting, especially if they are already at a healthy weight/BMI. It also says negative energy balance or caloric restriction is in very young women might also have an effect on delaying puberty through effects of the HPG axis and neurohormones.
Okay, so why would we want to be doing something right now that would be potentially giving us hormonal imbalances when all we are trying to do right now in amenorrhea recovery is balance our hormones? So, like I said, a lot of the studies are done on men, but there have been quite a few studies done on mice. So, let's take a look at what is happening with female mice versus male mice when they undergo intermittent fasting. So, it is found in a couple of these studies that intermittent fasting actually will work pretty well in the male rats, but for the female counterparts, they're finding that there are serious hormonal imbalances. Female rats often stopped ovulating when they were fasting. Female rats also became more alert and energetic during the time when they were actually supposed to be sleeping. And now we see this a lot with those who are struggling with amenorrhea. They can't sleep. And it makes sense that you can't sleep because if you are migrating, if you are in the land of famine, you can't just like have a peaceful, nice rest, that you could be in a dangerous place. You don't know what predators are around, so you want to stay awake, and you also want to be available to any food that might come by during the nighttime. So it's not advantageous during migration to be sleeping at night. So it's really interesting that we're seeing that even in the female rats, when they are undergoing intermittent fasting, that they are having sleep issues as well. And sleep is where a lot of our reparation happens, and is one of the pillars of getting your period back is becoming a better sleeper, is really honing in on your sleep hygiene, because so much healing goes on at night. And so if you are not sleeping well at night, then you are again decreasing your chances of your body being able to get out of this energy debt and to get your period back.
For a great resource discussing the difference between men and women in athletic training, I highly recommend Dr. Stacy Sims. She has her famous TEDx talk called Why Women Are Not Small Men. She really discusses the studies behind athletic training and the differences in men and women in these studies. And I won't even say more than this. I just highly recommend, if you're interested in this, to go check her out and potentially to purchase her book called Roar.
So now my last and final reason for why I do not believe that it would be advantageous to do intermittent fasting if you are trying to get your period back, or if you're recovering from an eating disorder, or getting out of energy debt. And that is the very fact that it is a restrictive way of eating. The very nature of it is you restrict the times that you can eat, and you restrict the times that you can't eat. Recovery is all about finding mental freedom as well as nutritionally rehabilitating the body, and putting more rules and regulations to when you cannot eat and what you cannot eat. I mean, this is just not beneficial for your recovery. Okay, I have one last thing regarding intermittent fasting and why I think it is not beneficial. In recovery, you need to be eating a lot of food, like a lot of food. And for many of us coming from a restrictive background, our stomach has shrunk, okay? And it can be hard to get in a lot of food. So we really need to take advantage of all the hours of the day to be fueling our body. Don't be trying to get all your calories in this small window. That is just going to hurt your digestive system. It's going to be hard to reach the calorie minimums that you need in order to get your period back. Take advantage of 7 o'clock in the morning, of your 11 o'clock snack, of your 1 o'clock lunch. I mean, you need this, by golly. If you think about it, like if you're intermittent fasting till, let's say, 2, I can fit in a good 3 meals before 2. Now, I don't want to have to try and eat those 3 meals on top of the other meals that I need to eat after 2 p.m., like in that time window. So I don't want to try and get in breakfast, snack, lunch, and my snack and dinner and dessert all in like 2 to 7 p.m. That's not going to be smart. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm going to have a lot of digestive issues, and it's just not going to be the smartest thing for me to do. So I can't stress anymore just how important it is that we release all food labels and restrictions during recovery. It is super important that you just allow yourself to eat whatever, wherever. You need to be able to listen to your body's hunger signals. This is super, super important. And if we go on this thing like intermittent fasting and we're all of a sudden saying like, I cannot eat at this time of the day, when we're not listening to our body if it says it's hungry during those times. So let's just quickly recap the reasons why I believe that intermittent fasting while you're trying to get your period back or when you're recovering from an eating disorder would not be good for your body. 1, it increases your cortisol. 2, it sends to your body this message of food is not around in the morning, aka we are in a state of famine right now. 3, it puts more restrictions on your diet and when you cannot eat, which is not good for finding that mental freedom around food. 4, it shows in many studies that intermittent fasting works differently for women and it can cause hormonal imbalances. We are trying to balance out our hormones, people. Okay, let's just be real here. 5, you need to be eating a lot of food and it can be hard to do that when you're intermittent fasting. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Please subscribe and like this video. And if you are interested in doing one-on-one coaching, you can always send me an email at contact.flowwithchlo@gmail.com. I answer every single one of my emails, so you can catch me there, and I will see you guys next time.